Okay, let's talk graphing today. What I want to focus on today is looking at the slope-intercept form for an equation. And so this is the most common way that we probably use an equation to graph, although not the only way. And so what I want to do here is just to define a couple of things. So when we are talking about graphing, M is your slope, and B is your y-intercept. Okay, that is where it crosses the y-axis. And what I first want us to practice with today is just thinking about writing equations in slope-intercept form. So if we have something like 6x plus 5y equals a negative 15, you first want to go ahead and solve this equation for y. So I would have 5y is equal to a minus 6x minus 15. Now notice that I have my x term out front, and that's because that is what it looks like up here. Okay, I want to have it mimic that slope-intercept equation. Okay, then my next step is to divide both sides by 5. And then my equation becomes y is equal to a minus 6/5 x, and then you have to look here, minus 3. So if I had to define here what was my slope, I'd say that my slope is my minus 6/5. That means that if I start at my y-intercept point of minus 3, and then if I went down 6 and to the right 5, I would have a graph of my line. Okay, let's try another problem. Okay. What if I'm given two things? Let's say I'm given a point and then given a slope, and then I'm asked to write an equation of that line. So let's say I'm given the point 0, 3, and I'm told that the slope is a minus 1/2. Okay. Now we know that our equation in slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. Okay. Now here I want us to really focus on this point. And sometimes in order to do that really well, we want to just maybe sketch a graph, even if you're not asked to draw one. Sometimes it's just helpful. Let's think about where the point 0, 3 is. So if I go 1, 2, 3. It's right here. Okay, well that sure does look like a y-intercept to me, doesn't it? Well, let's see. So now I know where it crosses my y-axis and I have my slope. That's all I need to fill in the gaps here. So okay, let's talk about slope, or point slope form. Point slope form. Okay, the formula for point slope form is this. You have y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Typically when we use this equation, we know three things. We know what m is, we know what x1 is, and we know what y1 is. The variables that do not change when you do this are y and x. Those stay the same. Okay, so don't substitute. Okay, so now let's go ahead and just look at a question. What if I give you a point and a slope, and I ask you to determine the equation of that line given that point and that slope? Okay. So if I, for example, give you something like 0.34, and maybe my slope is 3. Okay. The first thing I would do with something like this is go ahead and label those points. It really helps when it comes time to subbing back in. So I'm going to call that x1. I'm going to call this y1. Now substitute back into this parent equation. So I have y minus 4 is equal to 3 times x minus 3. And then we just simplify it. So I have y minus 4 is equal to 3x minus 9. I'm going to add 4 to each side. And now I have y is equal to 3x minus 5. And that is our equation. What if all I'm given is just 2 points? Sometimes that becomes really difficult to try and figure out. I'm going to show you today how we would deal with just finding something if we only had 2 points to work with. And I'm going to choose a problem that has a fraction in it because, well, that happens. So let's just see here. What if I have something like 5 over 2 and 0, okay, and then 2 and a minus 1/3. If you're asked to find the equation of a line and all you're given is 2 points, what you want to do here is start by finding the slope. Because once you find the slope, we can use your x1 and y1 point and use our point slope formula. So step 1, find the slope. Okay, so now we remember that our equation for slope is y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1. And you may have learned it the other way, and that's fine. It truly doesn't matter. As long as you have y1 minus y2 and x1 minus x2. Either way works. Okay, so I'm going to call this then, this is my x2, my y2. So I have a minus 1/3 minus 0 all over a 2 minus 5/2. And now I need to simplify. So now I have a minus 1/3 minus 0 is just minus 1/3. On the bottom, I have 2 minus 5/2. Now I can, if I want, go ahead here and make a common fraction. So if you think about this is the same as 4/2. Okay. Okay, same thing. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 4/2 minus 5/2 is a minus 1/2. And now you have a fraction over a fraction. And so what you want to do here to clear that is simply multiplying, right? So if I multiply each by the reciprocal, 2, don't forget our negative, I can now see that my answer is going to be a positive 2/3. So m is equal to a positive 2/3. Okay, so hold that. So now I'm going to take that positive 2/3 and my first point, and we're going to plug that into our point slope formula. So I had my point of 5/2 and 0, and my m equaled 2/3. And this was x1, oops, and y1. Okay. Now let's plug those in. So I have y minus 0 equals 2/3 times x minus 5/2. Well, the left side simplifies down pretty easily here, so I just have y. And now I have a 2/3 x. And then let's multiply our fractions. So I have a minus 10. 3 times 2 is 6. And if you'd like, you probably would be good to go ahead and just simplify that equation down one more step. So you get 2/3 x minus 5/3. And really, I kind of went fast here, but we can actually see that here with these two. If you were to cross reduce here, you can see how that 2 cancels with that 2, and then you get your minus 5/3 there. So this is then our final equation. Okay, I hope that helps to get you going with more with point slope form and graphing in general. And as always, I'm happy to make more videos. Have a great day.